Hi, guys and gals. I hope you can hear me. Uh, and thanks for joining on this live session tonight on St. Patrick's Day regarding the Shamrocks on the Sullivans. I will say that I messed up pretty badly, and this was going to be an actual recorded video, and it turned out that I messed up and Steven couldn't do what he needed to do in time. So I just got back from having some corned beef and cabbage with the family. And I said, well, I just got to go live and do this live. So thank you for being here. Let's see. All right. Hi, Robert. Hey, Ed. Thanks for joining us. And I'm sorry about the delays in time. Hi, Teresa. Oh, hi, Teresa. If you've watched the explosion video, the live session with Tim Nesmith a few days ago, you might recognize that my computer was not really working. So I thankfully I just bought a new computer. So I just bought it yesterday. So setting it all up, hopefully it looks good and sounds good. I still haven't finished all the settings and things like that. So away we go, I guess. So yeah, obviously, when you talk about St. Patrick's Day relating to the Navy, really you're just focusing on, what first comes to mind is USS The Sullivans, both DD 537 and DDG 68. We did have a fundraiser / get together St. Patrick's Day party on Thursday, so a few days ago, and John Sullivan was in attendance. So that is Kelly Sullivan's brother. And this was the first time that he had been at the Naval Park since 2002. And even then, when I was walking him around, he said that he didn't even introduce himself. So he just came on board with his then girlfriend, I believe, and just toured the ships as a fan, as opposed to being a Sullivan family member. So again, that is Albert. His son Jimmy had 2 children, Kelly and John, and John had not been back since 2002. So it was great to have him. It was great to meet him. I introduced him, and he gave a little 5-10 minute talk about Buffalo and what it means to him and his family and things. And it was really great. Thank you, Ed. Appreciate it. So let's just jump right in. And again, this was going to be a video and I messed up, and so Steven couldn't edit it. And so let's just jump in. I have a PowerPoint talking about the Shamrocks on the Sullivans. I hope this works. Crossing fingers. Let's see. Slideshow. Play from start. Oh, big screen. Okay. So when you're doing research like this, like emblems or things that have been painted, the better way of doing it is to actually try to find photographic evidence. A lot of times these things don't get written down in diaries or war diaries, things like that. I have talked to people that had family members that upkept, if that's the word, upkept the Shamrock on the stack during World War II. So I've met a family member who helped design it, family members of the sailor who helped design it, and then who upkept it throughout the 2 years. This is a great shot. This is from 1944. And very clearly, you can see the Shamrock on the stack. Hopefully very clearly. And so what we know is the Shamrock on the stack was painted sometime after commissioning, but more than likely by the time they got to the Pacific. So maybe in that time in Pearl Harbor, before actually heading into the combat zone, combat theater, it was on there from January of 44 all the way through August of 45 and September of 45. And then, after the war, she was in reserves. So here's a nice shot of her in 1944. You can see the the Shamrock very clearly. Here's a great shot. I love this shot. I actually put the shot in the book that I did about the Buffalo Naval Park, getting refueled next to an oiler. And you can very clearly see it there. If you look towards the bow of the ship, you can see all that, the rubbing of the paint during the action. They wouldn't really paint the vessels during World War II unless something catastrophic happened. But you can see the rubbing there right aft of the 537. Again, the Shamrocks right there, nice and clear. So it was green with a white outline, right? And the stem facing aft. Here's a nice close-up shot of the starboard side. So therefore the stem is facing aft, but it's going off to the left. All right, so that's a really nice close-up shot. So we know from photographic evidence that it was there throughout World War II. It was there more than likely while they were in reserve until 1951. After 1951, they joined Desron 20, all right, and 7 other small boys did an around-the-world cruise with the Sullivans. So it was about 218 days long. They spent 4 months shelling North Korea, blowing up bridges, rolling stock, transportation, along with the other ships of Desron 20. I've talked about Robert Lorenz before in the collections in a video, and that he went to Marquette University and then embarked on the Sullivans in 52, just in time for that around the world cruise. And we have a cruise book from that time too. There are no Shamrocks on the stack in that cruise book. So probably when they brought the ship out of mothballs back into dry dock, they painted over the Shamrock. And then doing reading, so this is where research is good, as opposed to photographic evidence. They repainted the Shamrock in March 1965, right after decommissioning. So she gets decommissioned in January of 65, March of 1965. She's in dry dock getting refreshed to be put in Philadelphia at the Navy shipyard in reserves, not knowing her fate, but in honor of her service, the crew at the shipyard repainted the Shamrock on the Sullivans. Now, I'm sorry if you're making comments. Or if you have questions, I have the whole PowerPoint covering the whole screen. So I apologize about that I can't see the comments. Well, this was going to be the title slide. All right, Shamrocks on the Sullivans. That was going to be, if this was a recorded video, that was going to be the slide. The second place, so we have the stack. The second place that we know is the quarterdeck. All right, you have in his tropical, the tropical whites on the left is from 1957. So there it is. The picture on the right is from 1959. So we know, again, no photographic evidence of World War II, but I can imagine that the quarterdeck Shamrock was painted for World War II as well. We just don't have any evidence of it. So in 1959, you see that they have the 3-inch 50s, placed around, and kind of like we do today with the 5 gunpowder casings, right? I don't see that they, we have their names and the age of the boys when they perished. All right, they don't have that there, but it's still a place of honor, certainly. One of the cool stories that I've gotten when I was at the Grout Museum District was in 1962, early 1962. So they were in Boston at the Navy shipyard, again, dry docking. So late 51 into 60, late 61 into 62, the sup ships of the Navy shipyard said, it's about time to paint over that Shamrock on the quarterdeck. And the captain and the crew caught wind, and they called Alida Sullivan, the boy's mother. And lo and behold, in renditions, it is still there today. So she must have raised quite a stink, and rightly so, at the Boston Navy shipyard to say, you're leaving this Shamrock on the quarterdeck. All right, you took it off the stack. She understands that, but you're leaving it on the quarterdeck. And so there it remained. So that's a nice story, too. So this is our earliest in his tropical uniform there. That's the earliest photograph we have, 1957, and then 1959. One of the other areas is certainly the gun barrels. Now, this is a nice photograph. I hope you can kind of figure that out. So we're looking at the gun director, and there's one of the barrels for the 5-inch. So right now, on a few of them, we have the ceremonial brass with the star, all right, as a barrel plug. All right, but they also had barrel covers that were canvas, like this, and that's the more prosaic, everyday use of gun barrels. And the cover, so they're canvas. You don't have to rip them off. You could just fire the 5-inch projectile right through it if needed. And this was another place that they had Shamrocks designated on the Sullivans, were the barrel covers. And of course, the cover for the captain's chair. Here he is getting ready to lean over to pick up the mail, I'm sure. But you can see there, that's starboard on the bridge wing there, where the captain's chair is there today. And we have it painted on. So this would have been the fourth area that we have photographic evidence of that a shamrock was on the Sullivans. Now, if you come to the Sullivans today, you'll see shamrocks everywhere. All right, Andrew, the caretaker of the Sullivans, and other crew throughout the 45 years have placed shamrocks in designated areas. I don't even think we have a full count, maybe 42. Well, that's oddly specific. So let's say 40 or 45 of where we have painted them on. But for my looking through the records, the photographic evidence, there are the 4 spots, all right, during World War II, and then for 3 of them beyond. The barrel covers, the captain's chair, the quarterdeck, and then the stack. But we know the stack was only for her time in World War II, and then in reserve, it was probably still there, but then again taken out, painted over in 1951 when they were dry docking for their around the world cruise with Desron 20. So what's the next slide here? All right, Desron 20. All right, so they were attached to Desron 20 again for the Around the World cruise book. I don't see anything painted on the stack, but certainly during exercises they would have put on emblems and taken them off, and that's the photographic evidence that we have. Right, sometimes you see a photo with it, sometimes you don't see a photo with it, and if you're lucky enough to have the dates, they might be just 6 months apart, something like that. So they would place it on probably during NATO exercises, fleet problem exercises, but then if they were in hot zone, so to speak, if they're in the Mediterranean with the 6th Fleet or NATO in the Atlantic, they may have left them off. All right, but she was with Desron 20 during the Korean conflict. She was also part of Destroyer Squadron 30, right? I could not find the picture, so I have to find that. But there is a photograph of the USS The Sullivans with this emblem painted on. So Desron 30, that was more towards the late 50s into the early 60s, right up until about 1963. And then in 1963 through 65, they're part of the reserve Desron 30. And here's some photographic evidence of that. You see the patch that now just looks like the prior one, but it says Reserve Destroyer Squadron 30. You see one of the whole ship, and then I zoomed in, and you can hopefully see Reserve Destroyer Squadron 30. And it's right next to the tripod mast, holding those heavier antenna and radar. But you can clearly see the 3 and the 0. The words, not so much, because again, there's only so much you can zoom in when a photograph has been digitized. So yeah, not much photographic evidence for Desron 20 being painted on. I have seen a Desron 30, and here is a Desron reserve Desron 30 with the photographic evidence. Oh, and that's it. Let's see here. Okay. Let's see. Okay. Can't see any post. Eric Shane can't see any post. Oh, okay. Thank you. Thank you. Well, I'm back now. Thanks for watching. Um, let's see. Not many questions, but that's good. Okay. Does the still do fleet problems? They might not call it fleet problems, but they still exercise. And of course, the Navy, as I've been learning more and more about the building programs and just more and more deeper into the histories of each of the vessels, uh, they were always participating with NATO, um, other, the British and NATO uh, and then themselves as well. So, do they call it fleet problems today? That's a great question that I just don't have. Um, well, please leave other comments and things like that if you have any questions. Uh, so we are opening. All right, shifting away. Thank you. I hope you enjoyed that. Shamrocks on the Sullivans. The stack we know for World War II. Great photographs there. The quarterdeck, the barrel covers, the captain's chair. Then moving into Desron 20 and 30, shown a little photographic evidence for that too. So we are opening next Saturday. So it's a fever pitch on board. We expect this year to be a really great year. COVID last year was still, moving out of COVID, and now we expect it to be fully out of COVID. So we expect fully a lot of Canadian participation like we have in the past. And we have a lot of things scheduled. It's the 80th anniversary of the Croaker, her commissioning this year. So we're looking forward to celebrating that. Certainly the eclipse. All right. I don't know if any of you are coming to Buffalo for the eclipse, but they're expecting a lot of people. And so we'll be open that weekend, and there'll be a lot of events, and I have a lot of curator tours, and there'll be other things going on during that time. And we also have a day pass. So if you want to watch the eclipse from the Little Rock, we have a day pass that can be found at our website. And then we serve lunch and things like that. So we're, hopeful that we see a lot of people for that event. And then we just plow right into the season. All right. We have a Vietnam Veterans Memorial Day celebration coming up as well. Starting tonight. I'm just doing it from memory. Sorry, because again, I wasn't planning on doing it live. So starting tonight, we do have a matching campaign between now and April 1st for the Sullivans. All right. So every dollar you give will be matched by another dollar. We have had a couple large donors already that we've heard of, which is so thankful. And donor engagement is so important. So I would like to personally thank everyone who's donated to the Sullivans already. Again, that goal is pretty wide right now, about $13 million. So again, our executive team is working really hard at working with New York State, Erie County, the city of Buffalo, and internally ourselves to try and secure all that funding. But the survivability plan is still strong and still in place. And there's a lot of activity down below, and she's doing well. Thank you, Frank. Already donated. Thank you, Eric. Great. So again, thanks everyone. Really appreciate all of your support for the Buffalo Naval Park, for the Sullivans. We hope to see you at some point, and we will see you again soon. Thanks so much, everybody. Have a good night, and thank you, Frank.